You're listening to the ERLC podcast.
But Brent, before we move on, I just have to say something since you weren't here. A revelation that I made to Megan and Josh. I have taken up watching The West.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the ERLC podcast, where every week we're talking about our work here at the ERLC and focusing on what Christians need to know about the things going on in the world. I'm Josh Wester, and with me on the podcast today, as always, are my co-hosts, Lindsay Nicolay.
Hello, everybody.
And he's back, Mr. Tennessee, Brent Leatherwood.
That's right. I'm back. Should it be, as always, that we're here together since the last 2 weeks we actually haven't been together?
Yeah, so if my world was this ideal world, and the podcast was what everything it should be every single week, you would both be here without fail. And we would always get that culture rundown from you, Brent. But in any case, look, guys, Brent's back. It's a big day for a podcast. In fact, we are facing right now, we're recording this on Thursday, and we have huge and terrible storms rolling through Tennessee, and we know that that's happening in other parts of the country. So if you hear any loud thunder or torrential downpours, that's what's going on. But so that we can get into the show, Lindsay, and maybe before it just, starts to thunder, lightning, and rain on us, tell us what the ERLC has been talking about this week.
Well, hello, everybody from the land of sleeplessness. That is my house right now with a little infant. Hopefully I can get through these things and put some coherent sentences together. So at ERLC.com this week, one of the articles that we thought was really important in light of the tragic shootings that have taken place this week, particularly the Atlanta one, as the shooter has been identified as having problems, sin struggles, addiction issues with sex. We have resurrected an article from back in 2015, but made some updates to it. This is an article by Cody Barnhart, who is on staff at a church and used to be an intern with us. And it's titled 3 Potential Long-Term Effects of Pornography Addiction. And as many of you know, pornography addiction is rampant in our society, but not just in our society. Outside of the church, it's rampant on the inside of the church as well. It's often cloaked. People don't often talk about it. It is shameful for many to talk about, but it is crippling. And so we wanted to open your eyes to some of the effects that could be happening as a result of prolonged pornography addiction. And so Cody has written this article. It's very helpful. It's convicting. It doesn't tear down, but it builds up. But it's also a call, and he writes this particularly to men as a male. It's a call to fight vigilantly pornography in your own heart and life, lust in your own heart and life and mind, but also to fight the industry that preys on so many people.
We asked Cody to go in and update this because we know that, especially in the week following the shootings we saw in Atlanta and the angle that was related to addiction and sexuality and the role that pornography plays in corrupting, particularly men's minds. We wanted to put out some good resources on this week, and Cody's article does a really good job of exposing both the dangers and the necessity of men fighting back against the temptations of pornography and exposing the dangers that lie within it.
That's right. And we want to go on record as saying it is never okay to injure other people or yourself because of your sin struggles or your addiction issues. Instead, it means to be fighting vigilantly against your sin, seeking accountability, making some changes where you need to make changes. And again, we would encourage you to read this really, really important article. Next up, we have an article by Catherine Parks. And if I was to ask you, what do you think is the next frontier in the abortion debate? What do you think is the place that is really important for pro-life advocates to get involved and to be present and active? Well, Catherine has an article that says the abortion pill is the next frontier in the abortion debate. So it's pretty incredible. But whereas you used to have to go into a facility to get surgery for an abortion, now you can have an at-home abortion obtained via the abortion pill. And this pill and abortions via this pill have been on the rise, especially in the midst of COVID. This is just, it's tragic, but it's not without hope and it's not without opportunity for the pro-life community and particularly for pregnancy resource centers. So Catherine runs down and explains what is the abortion pill, and the different opportunities for pro-life advocates, how we can stand for the dignity of these men, women, and unborn babies.
Well, it's always a privilege to read Catherine's pieces, particularly when it comes to pro-life issues, because she's got such a great heart and wisdom on these issues. And, I think the way that you just laid things out, Lindsay, like this is just the natural result of the kind of throwaway culture that we live in right now, where things as significant as human life are just so easily discarded. And I agree with you that there is a lot of opportunity here. We need to be advocates for the lives of those who are the most vulnerable. And we need to tell people, hey, as we are thinking through the inherent dignity of everyone around us, we need to keep in mind those who don't have a voice.
That is spot on, Brent. We have to be a voice for the voiceless, and particularly that's what we're called to do as Christians. The final article that I want to highlight today is part of our interview series. We've had several of these on our site, and this one is by one of our interns, Andrew Bertodatti. This is an interview with Jeffery Bilbro, who has written a book called Reading the Times, A Literary and Theological Inquiry into the News. And so he tries to answer the question, what should we pay attention to in the news? What's the purpose? Why do we need a practical theology, how we consume it? Another really important question that he answers is, what's an example of a helpful practice that will help us offset some of bad maladies tied to our news intake? And then how can Christians better practice discernment while consuming the news? So obviously, this is a really important interview. This is an important book. This is an important article for our times when we are inundated with the news on a daily basis, and oftentimes not really newsworthy news. So I would encourage you to check that out. As I always say, we have a ton of great resources on our site, free resources that will help educate and equip you to answer the pressing issues of our day. But for now, Brent and Josh, that's your look at what's happening on ERLC.com.
Hey, thanks, Lindsay. And that brings us back to our long-awaited culture rundown. So, Brent, tell us what's going on.
All right, Josh. Well, yes, it is good to be back with the both of y'all. I am refreshed, rejuvenated, re-energized. You're getting the full Leatherwood experience, Lindsay and Josh.
It's what we've been waiting for.
I
mean,
speak for yourself. I don't know that we're ready for it.
Prepare yourselves accordingly, Lindsay. All right, so there is. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, remember, you're coming back refreshed. Don't you know the proverb that says something about one who sings loudly to a downcast heart is like a, I can't exactly remember it, but
who's downcast?
Well, I would amend it and say to a sleepless heart.
No, there you go. Well, that's true.
Is like nails on a chalkboard. That's my version.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was a week. There were several kind of big stories, and so let's just cover them. So you talked about earlier the shooting in Atlanta, and unfortunately, we had another shooting that we are wading through getting still all the information about, and that occurred in Boulder. So Axios reports Colorado, which has endured some of America's most notorious mass shootings, now is the scene of the nation's second massacre in 7 days. The killing of 10 people at the King Soopers supermarket in Boulder, including the first police officer to arrive on the scene, Eric Talley, a father of 7, joins last week's rampage in Atlanta on an agonizing roster of inexplicable American tragedies. The Atlanta killings, which left 8 dead, brought urgent new attention to the year-long wave of violence against Asian Americans, and the slaughter in Boulder renewed debate on gun control, which wasn't at the top of the agenda of the Democrats who control Washington. So there's been a lot of talk on just that front this week in terms of, is it time to either reform the filibuster in the U.S. Senate or get rid of it altogether to try and push through gun control legislation? And obviously, both of these communities now are dealing with the aftermath of these tragedies.
Well, and what is so tragic to me, in addition to just the loss of life and the senselessness of it, is how these have become so commonplace. And just when I heard of it, it just seemed like something that was normal. And immediately I was like, Lord, help me not to respond that way. Help me to remember to pray for these people and to just to be outraged by this and to be brokenhearted over it. It just is tragic. And I know the answers are not easy to what to do about guns and gun control, and people disagree and have different ideas, but it's just so tragic how quote unquote normal it has become.
Yeah, Lindsay, I'd totally resonate with that last statement in particular. It feels normal, and that feels terrible. I remember being in such real fear, going all the way back to like the Columbine shooting when I was just a kid, and being afraid that something like that would ever happen again. And now, all of these years later, living in a society where it feels normal. And almost when you hear news of another mass shooting, you feel numb instead of fear. You feel you want to be outraged and shocked, but it just feels so familiar. And so, yeah, that's a lot of what my experience was like just over the last 2 weeks.
And one of the things that several of the news reports pointed out, and I got to tell you, I didn't even realize it. For the last year, since we have gone through the season of isolation caused by COVID, the number of mass shootings dropped dramatically. And a couple of analysts were suggesting that maybe now, as we are coming back out of isolation with vaccines and whatnot being more readily available, maybe this is going to reemerge as just a consistent feature of American society. I don't know. I don't know if we really have enough data to say that with any sort of certainty, but it's certainly alarming that within 7 days, just as we exited the period where flags were flown at half staff for Atlanta, they have to be flown at half staff again for Boulder.
That's an interesting point too, Brent, especially thinking of emerging out of the COVID isolation because of the mental health crisis that's been happening as well. So you don't know how people have been affected, what their mental health is like, and what that might look like as we emerge. We don't need to be afraid, but that is something to definitely consider as we've seen these happen within the last week.
And I would say that this is a good point to just remind our audience. Our audience is a praying audience, right? We need to be praying for our leaders consistently, that they would have wisdom to be able to forge some sort of consensus and solution here that is actually helpful. I don't know if one is in the offing or not, but we should continue to pray for our leaders that they would be able to take helpful steps. All right. Going from one crisis to an emerging one at the U.S. border. Axios is also reporting this week that President Biden has put Vice President Kamala Harris in charge of addressing the migrant surge at the U.S.-Mexico border, senior administration officials announced on Wednesday. Harris will lead efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle of countries. Those consist of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, to manage the flow of unaccompanied children and migrant families arriving at the border in numbers not seen since a surge in 2019. Quote, starting today, the Northern Triangle nations and Mexico will know that there was one senior official dedicated to this effort. To be very clear, this is an important task, a senior administration official told reporters during a conference call. And look, there are a number of proposals that are moving around Washington right now. A couple of congressional Democrats from Texas are even suggesting that the Biden administration not take older child migrants, like 16, 17-year-olds, which apparently a strong proportion of the individuals crossing the border right now fall into that age demographic. There are concerns about individuals crossing the border with COVID. And so, I mean, this is a big issue. It's not tied to one political party or one administration. But it is just an offshoot of the fact that our immigration system needs reform, and that is something that Southern Baptists have spoken to time and again through various resolutions at our annual meetings. And needless to say, the administration has its handful with this issue.
Brent, this is such a challenging issue. And as we talked about the last few weeks, it's just horrible to think about living in a place where you are so frightened, where you are so bad off, where you want so badly to have a better future, especially for your children, that you would let them go to the border by themselves, unaccompanied. And I just can't imagine the heartbreak of that for a parent and the scariness of that for a child. And I saw a little bit on the news today. They were showing some teenage boys in the facility that they were staying in. And while this facility looked nice, they looked like they were being well taken care of. It still just pulled on my heartstrings once again, thinking about the very difficult decisions that need to be made and the difficult process that it is to come up with a solution. And as Southern Baptists, immigration policies, we need good immigration policies, but we've got to have an open heart to immigrants because they're made in God's image. So the ways that we can help and serve them, we need to be for that. The ways that we can treat them with dignity, we need to be for that.
That's a good word, Lindsay. All right. Speaking of COVID, have you gotten your vaccine yet? Josh, Lindsay, have either one of you gotten your first jab, as our English friends like to call it?
Right. And our colleague Jeff Pickering would want us to say that he has adopted that term as his own. So I have not yet gotten my first dose of the vaccine, but I have scheduled my appointment. So that feels noteworthy, and I'm really excited about it. My wife gets her second round next week, and my parents are both in town this weekend, and they have received the first round of the vaccine, and I believe also are scheduled to get their second rounds next week. So a lot of progress in the Wester family.
And there's progress in our family as well. We have our vaccines scheduled, but I won't tell you why, because that might steal your thunder, Brent, for this next story that you're sharing.
Well, no, look, our family owes it to you, Lindsay, for alerting our whole team that now in Tennessee, it is available. So earlier this week, and this has a tie nationally, earlier this week in Nashville, News 2, WKRN TV here, they reported that Governor Lee, Tennessee's governor, announced that every Tennessean 16 and up will be eligible to receive the vaccine no later than April 5th. A few Tennessee counties will start that process in the coming days, said Governor Lee. He went on to say that the federal government has asked states to make sure that every adult can receive access by May 1st. Tennessee will beat the deadline. Well, unbeknownst to all of us, that deadline would occur on Wednesday of this week when the state opened it up to everyone age 16 and up. And so, Lindsay, you flagged that for us, and we're just thankful that, at least in our family, we've gotten our first couple of appointments scheduled. And so I raised that to say this vaccine, if you're listening, it is coming to your area. And that is certainly good news because all of us have been praying for a solution to this pandemic and a way out of the isolation and the work from home status that many of us find ourselves in. And the great news is that it is here, and it is here in record time.
You know, Brent, now I like to think that you owe your life to me. So just whatever favors you can do for me whenever I need them, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm just thrilled to see people getting back to living their lives. And it's exciting to me that maybe within just a few months, we'll be at a place where lockdowns and quarantine and social distancing, those things can be a thing of the past. That is what I'm clinging to right now.
Listen, I'm optimistic and I'm very thankful, but you look at Europe and they've had to try to lock down again. So you do have to be careful because I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that. So this week we saw Germany put in place under Chancellor Merkel a plan to do a lockdown through Easter, so over the next week and a half. But then they quickly rescinded that. And I mean, y'all, this is just incredible. Europe is having major issues with distributing the vaccine. And while every day here in America, millions upon millions more are getting the vaccine. And so in some ways, I feel like we're almost kind of in a race because Europe is having some of those issues with the distribution of the vaccine. They are starting to see higher and higher caseloads of COVID over there. That probably will head our way. And if we've got a population that is still kind of, overall hesitating to get the vaccine, that could be in our future again. And I'm just thankful that our family is going to move forward getting the vaccine, and hopefully, if there are any sorts of new variants out there, the vaccines will be very effective against those. And so, yeah. Well, we want to talk about donuts because Krispy Kreme announced this week a little treat for those of you with a sweet tooth. So Fortune magazine said the chain says it will offer a free original glazed donut to anyone who shows their vaccination card for the rest of 2021, beginning this week. And the offer is not a one-time deal. That's right. You can go back every single day, show your card, and you will get a free donut. Tip for those of you who may not know, might be first-time visitors to Krispy Kreme, because it is worth it to go on in and get your free donut. Go when the hot and fresh sign is lit up.
Yeah, hot now.
Hot now.
In fact,
sorry.
In my house, we call those donuts hot nows.
I cracked up on Twitter because there was this doctor who responded to Krispy Kreme's announcement. Did y'all see this? And she was basically saying,
it was Lena Wynn.
Yes, I can't promote this. I think it's good to be promoting the vaccine, but how about you offer one a month? Or she said some other things. And
as
a
public
colleague,
health expert, listen, okay, so if we want to be all pro safety on the coronavirus side, I can live with that. What I can't live with is trying to keep people from donuts that are free and excellent. Okay, so let's just say this. Eat your donut,
yes.
Go get it, get your shot, go get your donuts, and just, man, this is the kind of like American ingenuity that I'm here for. And if you need to walk 10 or 15 minutes extra day to deal with your donut, great. But you just enjoy it.
I would encourage other organizations to follow Krispy Kreme's lead. So
I'm trying to get a free chicken sandwich every time I show
free
my
chicken sandwich from
great.
Chick-fil-A. I want a free Coca-Cola delivered to my house.
I'll take a free Sonic drink.
There you go. I mean, let's make this happen, corporate America.
Yes, our former colleague, Dan Darling, he responded and said, well, these people must be fun at parties. So I cracked up. Oh, man. But yeah, after a year of lockdown, go eat your donuts.
Wholeheartedly agree. All right. To more serious news. On the international front, Reuters is reporting this. The United States, the European Union, Britain, and Canada imposed sanctions on Chinese officials on Monday for human rights abuses in Xinjiang, the first such coordinated Western action against Beijing under new U.S. President Joe Biden. Beijing immediately hit back with punitive measures against the EU that appeared broader, including European lawmakers, diplomats, institutes, and families, and banning their businesses from trading with China. Western governments are seeking to hold Beijing accountable for mass detentions of Muslim Uyghurs in northwestern China, where the U.S. says China is committing genocide. So this is something important for our work at the ERLC. We have been calling attention, as well as many other organizations that care about human dignity, but calling attention to the absolute atrocity that is occurring at the hands of the Chinese government against Uyghurs and other religious minorities within China.
This is perfect, Brent. We've been talking on the podcast, and our organization has been working for more than a year to encourage both the United States government and the international community to bring their collective power to bear against this oppression by the Chinese Communist Party. It feels incredibly important to say at this point that when we are talking about these abuses taking place in China, we're not opposing Chinese people. We're not opposing Asian people. We're talking about the Chinese Communist Party that rules over China, which is by population the largest country in the world, with an iron fist. And in part of that tyranny is their oppression of this religious group known as the Uyghur Muslims. And so if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you've heard us talk about it a lot. If you haven't, there are reports that there are more than 1 million Muslims that have been placed into basically internment camps by the CCP, that they are basically being reprogrammed so that they can live and think and act like proper Chinese citizens, whatever that means to the Chinese Communist Party. This is it's some of the worst oppression happening anywhere in the world. And so this is a really, really positive step to see not just the United States government, but the European Union and the UK use their collective muscle to stand up to China.
We also have an article that will be coming out probably next week by our policy staff that gives a rundown of some of these measures, punitive measures that have been taken.
All right, turning back stateside, there was a significant development this week in Utah in efforts to combat the spread of pornography. So WAFF-TV is reporting that Utah is a step closer to requiring all cell phones and tablets sold in the conservative state to automatically block pornography after the Republican governor signed legislation Tuesday that critics call a significant intrusion of free speech. Governor Spencer Cox said the measure would send, quote, an important message about preventing children from accessing explicit online content. The proposal is the latest move in Utah's legislative campaign to curb the availability of porn. So the measure won't actually go into effect unless 5 other states enact similar laws, a provision that was added to address concerns that would be difficult to implement. So that's, I worked in the legislature here in Tennessee, and that's a really unique provision to basically say, so, hey, this is passed. It is currently on hold until 5 other states pass this as well, almost creating, in a sense, like a compact, which is something that happens more regularly. But still, I like when legislators, whether at the federal level or the state level, think kind of constructively about measures to really combat the spread of things that are really harmful to society, like pornography. There probably are some legitimate First Amendment concerns here that will need to be addressed. But this is something that's really interesting that's moved through the legislature in Utah.
Yeah, this is another one of those things that I love because, look, I care deeply, deeply about civil liberties. I think the Bill of Rights is a fundamental bedrock in our free society that we enjoy and live in together. Having said that, I don't think that the freedom of speech or the freedom of expression means that everything is on the table. And when it comes to pornography, I think that's one of those things that we can draw us outside of the lines. And so as Christians, we should support legislation like this. And this is the kind of thing that should be really deeply encouraging to us because we don't want to have a society or live in a culture where pornography is normalized and people have open access to it. I do not understand how, facing just some of the realities we've looked at in the last several weeks, we can, as a culture, not see that the hypersexualization of our society is such a bad thing, that it is detrimental to us as a people. As Christians, we don't want to denigrate the concept of human sexuality, but we do want to say that kind of immoral display of things like pornography existing in our culture and just being open and available for anyone and everyone. As Christians, that's something we can stand against because it corrupts and degrades. It speaks against the image of God that all people bear, and it makes our world and society worse.
And I would just point out, there might be critics who hear us talking about this. They're saying, "Oh no, we need to just have unfettered access to all this like we have in maybe some other states." Well, look, this is where the concept of federalism comes in. Different states are allowed to control what goes on with their borders, and it doesn't necessarily have to match up with what goes on in other states. And so I'm really thankful that this little experiment in federalism is occurring. again, I'm affirming of the fact that leaders are trying to think constructively to stop the scourge of something like pornography.
So I just wanted to give a little shout out for the weekly, an email that we send you every Friday that has a lead article there, some news article links. It has a rundown of some of the important articles happening at ERLC.com, has a section from DC and our policy staff, and also highlights some of our podcasts. The lead article in the weekly today is on this very thing that we're talking about. So it will do a good job breaking it down for you. We'll basically put this conversation all in one place, so you can have it there for quick access. And if you want to sign up for the weekly, all you have to do is go to our website and our homepage and enter your email there.
Good. It's always good to give a shout out to the weekly. All right. So finally, speaking of states like California, there was a significant development this week coming from California for the royal family. Good Morning America reports that Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, has landed a new job title as he and his wife, Duchess Meghan Markle, continue to build their portfolios 1 year after stepping down as senior members of Britain's royal family. Harry, 36, is now the Chief Impact Officer for BetterUp, a Silicon Valley startup focused on coaching and mental health. I want to know exactly how Josh feels for this. I have two questions, and not to make light of this, but is Prince Harry, is he an expert in mental health? And so, like, is this something that's like up his alley? I really don't know. And then number two, Josh, I got to know, given that you are the chief officer when it comes to your mantra of like something like 9 times out of 10, when somebody says impact, they mean effect.
They mean affect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does this fall into that grid?
So, Brent, I'm glad you brought that up. So even this morning, one of our colleagues sent me a text and said, is this effect or affect? And sent me a sentence and whatever. Actually, it was really interesting because this happened to me. I was radicalized just by watching a show with a person that has an obsession about effect versus affect. And the truth is that no one ever knows what to do. So they just reach for impact and they go, well, that'll work. But when you want to say impact, you mean affect. In this case, Chief Impact Officer, it just leaves me positively flummoxed. What does that even mean? And
does it leave an indelible mark on you? An impact zone, if you will?
Let me just say that one of my favorite things in professional and adult life is discovering that sometimes people have titles that tell you exactly what their job is. Other times when you want to signal that somebody's job is important, but their job is kind of nebulous because they're important just because they're associated with your staff, you will give them a title that doesn't really say anything. Chief Impact Officer would certainly fall into that latter category. But best of luck to Prince Harry in his new role.
Absolutely.
You're going to get some hate mail from all the royal lovers.
Probably from our staff.
That's right.
Well, we do wish him the best of luck. And obviously, if he can help people in terms of achieving better mental health or just raising awareness about mental health, that is certainly going to be a good deed that will benefit a number of folks. So we are thankful for that, and we wish him the best of luck. All right, Lindsay, Josh, that's your look at this week in culture.
So now it's time for the Lunchroom, where every week we tell you about the things we've been talking about with one another. This week we skipped our interview because we were just, excited to have Brent back and anticipating he might have quite a lot to say. He did not disappoint, and that was really awesome. So now, to tell us what's going on in the Lunchroom and maybe to drop in an Easter egg right here, Lindsay, what are you bringing to the table?
Well, before I drop in the Easter egg, on a serious note, I wanted to ask everyone to pray for our colleague Jason and his wife Dory. As many of you know, she is battling cancer, her second round, and she's going through the most intense part of her treatment right now. She's actually had to be checked into the hospital because she's battling an infection. So they've just asked that we pray that her numbers, her counts would go up and her fever would come down and that that infection would go away quickly so that she could come back home. So please be praying for them and their family and their 2 small kids. And Dory's mom is at home taking care of them. And then on a less serious note, for the Easter egg is while Brent was gone, I actually took up watching The West Wing while I'm tending to the baby. And I've seen it before, but I didn't really pay attention. And maybe I'm not paying attention now, but I have actually kind of enjoyed it. Season 1, I actually liked, surprisingly enough. Season 3, I've gotten a little bored with, if I have to be honest. Some of the episodes have been good. Others have kind of bored me. Season 2, I liked. So how do you feel about that, Brent?
Well, I am just glad that you have joined us in appreciating the greatness that is the West Wing. And I would just encourage you to just slowly digest it, because season 3 is actually excellent. And yeah, so I'm glad you're on the side of us and not on the side of the internet people that have gone crazy.
Well, I'm not saying it's my favorite show ever, but I am enjoying it. Season 3, yeah, exactly. Megan says this confirms Brent did not listen to the podcast while he was gone. And Brent, your response was just lame-o. If we were in the lunchroom, I would have hoped you would have had a lot more excitement if we were actually in the lunchroom.
I actually don't think you appreciate my my response as much as I know Josh did.
Did you say what's next?
No, he dropped in another one.
Oh, what
he dropped
was
in
it?
Another one. The internet people have gone crazy, which is from the episode where...
is that Lemon Lyman?
That's Lemon Lyman.
Yes, I did like that episode, actually.
I'm very proud of you for hanging on there. That's very awesome.
Yep.
And actually, I am proud that you just named the episode right off the top of your head. That's fantastic.
Yep. Some of the episodes, I can't pronounce the name of them, but I did enjoy Lemon Lyman. Yes, there you go. I did enjoy that. So anyway, there you go. There's my confession.
Man, well, thanks, Usher. We're going to go ahead and move into the next section, which is, I'll just go next. So 2 of our former colleagues have, yes, Usher, my confessions.
Oh my word. That's hilarious.
Yes. So for all the millennials in the audience, there you go. That was a quick reference to Usher. So 2 of our former colleagues have books that are either forthcoming or have just come out, and I just wanted to plug both of those for you. The thing that got this on my mind is that Andrew Walker has an article today at TGC called "Embattled on All Sides, Does Religious Liberty Have a Future?" And in that article, he is talking about the current state of religious liberty. And he wrote this because he honestly is just about to publish a book titled Liberty for All, Defending Everyone's Religious Freedom in a Pluralistic Age. And that book comes out at the beginning of May. And so you can pre-order it now. I'm sure he would appreciate it. But when it comes to religious liberty, which is central to the work that we do, I've learned so much from Andrew. His voice is so important. And so I would just point you at both of these resources, both his book and this TGC article, where you can learn a little bit more about that. And because we are coming up on Easter, our former colleague, Dan Darling, has a book called The Characters of Easter, which is modeled after his previous book, The Characters of Christmas. It is a really helpful book that, honestly, I think you would just really benefit from as we're marching toward the celebration of Easter as Christians, which for us is the highlight of the calendar, celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, which we do every week, but we do in a special way on Easter Sunday. So those resources are out there for you. I'd love for you to check them out. I know Dan and Andrew would really, really appreciate you buying their books and spreading the word. And so I just wanted to give a plug for them for my lunchroom this week.
Josh, you're absolutely right. I love it when our 2 former colleagues put down their thoughts and share them with the rest of us with their resources. And obviously, Dan's is the follow-up to his wildly successful Characters of Christmas, which you can also order. But I love that he is going through different parts of Scripture and pulling out the great individuals that make up those stories. So, all right. So my thing that I'm bringing to the lunchroom for this week is, while I was gone, I had the opportunity to go watch my Atlanta Braves play a spring training game. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I realize, not everybody has the ability to take a spring break trip like our family did. So I'm very thankful and grateful that I got a little bit of time away. And I also realize that because spring training is only happening in 2 places, right? Florida and Arizona, not everybody can get to them. But if you can, if you're just even a casual fan of baseball, it is such a great experience because it's a lot less formal than a regular season game. And so you can just kind of get up close and see the players up close. And so I just brought a standing room only ticket to go watch the Braves and just walked around the ballpark. And it was good to see people, like real live people, back in a stadium as fans. And it was good to see live baseball being played in person. And so that was just really rejuvenating for me. I got to tell you, I kind of felt just like a 10-year-old boy again, just walking around the ballpark and watching ball players smash base hits and home runs. That was good.
But did you get a legitimate dude sighting is the real question. Very obscure West Wing reference there. But it was about spring training and Mike Piazza, so I thought maybe you would follow it.
Oh, the Mike, yes. No, I missed that one.
I'm so glad that you missed that. I feel totally justified.
Oh, hush.
Yeah. So look, guys, this was a fun episode to do. If you take nothing else away from it, it is that the ERLC podcast still endorses the West Wing and thinks that you should watch it. Lindsay, we're proud to see that you have joined the bandwagon. Brent, I'm even more proud to see that you have not wavered in your fandom and that you are, the spring training thing. What an excellent tie-in there. So it's good to have you back. That's going to do it for us at the show today. We just want to say thanks so much for listening and for hanging with us every single week. It's a privilege to do this podcast every week. And if you like the show and want to help us spread the word so that other people can discover it, would you consider sharing this episode on social media or going into your podcast app and leaving us a rating or a brief review? But for Brent and Lindsay and myself, we just want to say thanks so much for listening. And we look forward to being back next week with more content.